Yeah, so aside from the males in my family who essentially caused all these problems, I mean, there were other issues that the male members, but those were the most egregious ones. There was also the fact that there were family members I was around who threatened to who did get involved in like two physical assaults, regularly verbally abused each other, regularly threatened. There were threats of death, of killing. There's all this shit going on, and that went on for years, and that was extremely stressful because I had to play peacemaker while they were doing it. I had to make sure I had to like self censor almost all of my thoughts on the subject and not appear to show any kind of favoritism. I just had to be neutral in the shit. I couldn't say what I wanted to say. I couldn't feel the way I wanted to feel because I was worried that if I tipped the balance too far in any one direction, somebody would fucking go crazy. Somebody would do something stupid in the moment, and that would cause a massive incident. So I really didn't feel safe in my home growing up, especially when I moved out and lived with another parent. Did not feel safe at all. It was worse than I thought it could possibly be. I was actually warned about it, but I was a stupid kid and I didn't listen because I thought, oh, I know what's best for me. Sometimes you don't. You really don't. But that was just the male family members causing the problems. And this is just early. This is just childhood, adolescence. Um, as for what the guys were doing, I mean, I'd have to go back a ways, but starting around the time I was like getting towards my late kid years, like 9, 10, and then early teens, like these kids, whatever like good qualities they had, it's almost like around a certain age they just turn into complete assholes. I don't know how it happens, but these boys just turned into complete assholes. And they actually, through their abusive behaviors, turned me into an asshole because I got defensive. So I was around like 11 or 12 years old. And because I only weighed about like 60 pounds and I was this really short kid, I was an easy target. And that's who they go after. The male bullies have a tendency to go after small, weak targets. You want to know why young men or men who are really short feel insecure and feel like they have to prove their quote manhood all the time? It's because of the other men. This is actually something I genuinely hate men for. If it wasn't for men acting predatory and being dipshits and assholes, these young men wouldn't feel the need to buy a gun. These young men wouldn't feel the need to put on all this bravado and end up doing all their dangerous shit. They're doing it out of insecurity because they know deep down that if you take away the gun, if you take away the knife, they're not winning that fight. Not apologizing. It is what it is. If you are a 5 foot tall man and you're in the room with a 6 foot tall man I don't care. Even with jujitsu training, you're going to have a hard time with that guy. And if he really wants to, he can just squeeze the fucking life out of you. What are you going to do about it? This is the reality of what happens in the world of men. When how men treat each other, how men act towards each other, is men go after not only people that are weak, like not only do they go after women and girls, they go after men weaker than them. And they do it all the time. And one of the ways that they're defended is, whenever somebody comes out and tells the truth, they denigrate the man who is testifying about their predatory behavior. They say he's weak, he's a bitch, blah, 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 blah. In other words, trying to emasculate him, trying to get him to shut the fuck up and just accept that, oh, this is just the way the world is. No, it's not the way the world is. It's the way you made the world. At least here. There's other cultures where this doesn't really happen like this, but it does here. So there's several incidents where I was exposed to this. I was, at the time, I would think it was like, this was New Jersey. So I was about 12, 13 years old. Now, again, I'm not saying I'm a saint. I had my own problems. But the disproportionate amount of times I was not only verbally mocked and insulted, but some of the shit these kids did made a lasting impression on me. And by the way, notice that girls aren't doing this. Here's the worst thing that girls ever did to me. Three worst things that my brain remembers. One of them like ripped up some papers in front of me. Oh no. Another one stepped on the back of my shoe while we were walking on a track. That was in California. Oh no. And one of them, of course, rejected me. But see, the thing is, wounds of the heart heal if you're not a weakling. It is what it is. You know, one person rejects you, you find another person. Now, at the time, of course, I took it really hard. But I never forgot the shit that the guys did. Not only what they did was inexcusable, reprehensible, but it could be interpreted as sexual assault. And at the time, I was a practicing Catholic. I wasn't non-religious then. I was taught to turn the other cheek. I took that literally. I did not take that just like turn away in your heart. I made every attempt to not engage in physical conflict with these individuals, and it only emboldened them. So here's an example of what I mean. I was sitting in health class, just minding my own business, trying to do the best I can learn, although I had a hard time because I was drugged up. I was on certain kinds of medications, and I just couldn't think straight. I wasn't in my right mind. One of these guys was taking his foot and placing it on my ass and then kind of like moving it around like this. And that wasn't the only time that they were trying to touch my ass. Now, in this case, no one could see anything. And I was just taking it because I didn't that's how I was taught. That's how I was raised. But he kept doing it. He was like, this. He kept like, nyeh, nyeh, nyeh. And it's like, no woman ever did this to me. No woman ever, was putting her foot on my ass and doing that weird shit. Well, I was just a kid. Didn't happen. Then there was the track incident in New Jersey. I will never forget this shit as long as I live. I was publicly humiliated. I was, it was the same thing, only this time it wasn't their foot. There were three young boys chasing me around. One of them was literally poking my rear end with a stick he found. I don't know where he got this thing. I don't know how he did what he did. I don't know when he found the time to do this, but all the other boys are watching. All the other people are watching. No one's doing anything, but they can see it. And this kid is literally poking me in my ass with a stick. So I was publicly humiliated by this prick. I think his name was Steve. I don't know his full name, but I remember that shit. He poked me in the ass with a stick while everyone was watching. And this is one of these three individuals was somebody who was regularly tormenting me. And there was a point at which I was tired of being mistreated. I was tired of all the bullshit. And so I decided to quit school at that point. This is literally what a bunch of guys did. This was some of the worst time, one of the worst times in my life where they just wouldn't stop. And the men who, the male teachers, didn't do jack shit. They didn't care. They weren't involved. They had the power to do something about it. They didn't do anything about it. And the sad thing is unfortunately, the apathy was spread across the board in this case. That's why it took me many years later, because I had this kind of it's me versus the world mentality, mostly because of the apathy of many of the individuals on the track and elsewhere who saw this shit and didn't do anything about it. So after being publicly humiliated, after dealing with this bullshit of having these guys touch my ass and stuff, I mean, it was creepy as fuck and gay as fuck. I didn't want them to do that. I wanted them to leave me alone, and they didn't. And the reason why they didn't is because I was 60 pounds. Like I said, small and weak. They knew that I couldn't fight them. And that's why they do it. There's this common narrative that some people like posit, like some people spread around and say, well, if you just stand up for yourself, back, it stops. No, that's not always true. Sometimes a bully will just fuck with you anyways because they know that they're physically stronger than you. They know they can beat you down. It's not always the case that a bully is going to stop just because they get a little bit of pain. Not every bully is the same, so that's bullshit. But I thought I was done with this when I left that school. I thought, okay, I'm going to get a fresh start. It's going to be over. And so I'm back in California. I'm in one of my, I mean, the males once again, I mean, I can't tell you how much hostility these fuckers were directing. Like with their language, the way they were. I mean, they were just oozing hostility whenever I ran into them. And, it's like somebody could say bad luck over bad luck. No, they know. But something had changed since then. Something had changed between the time I was 12 years old and 14, 15-ish. And what changed was I became a bigger boy. I put on a lot of weight. I got stockier, and it became more risky for somebody to fuck with me because even though I wasn't the tallest guy, I had a lot of weight and I could use it. And they knew that, and they one of them, there was this really tall, I don't know if lanky's the word, but he was a tall redhead kid. Uh, I thought I was done with this. I thought this was over with. I thought I would see the end of this. No, 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 no. But this is where I decided to make a change. But what I did, not only did I feel horrible about it, I felt like I shouldn't even have to do this. But this is what my society did to me. Not only did it fuck over my family members, but it was still fucking over me. So this is like when you go to me when you go to a school should be a sanctuary. It should be a place where you feel safe. It should be a place where you're allowed to learn and you're not stuck in a stressful fight or flight shit. So I'm sitting in my history class. I don't remember which grade this is. I don't know if it was 10th grade, 11th. There's this redheaded kid and his fucking friend giving me all sorts of trouble. And I've already walked down this road before. I already knew what happened if I didn't do something. And so what I'm and see, I was in a trailer park. That's where I lived. I had no money for martial arts to learn. I couldn't pay to get a sensei. We were living paycheck to paycheck. That's another thing, by the way, that some people will never tell you, which is not everybody can just afford to buy the money to get the skills that they need to defend themselves. Sometimes you're fucked. It's because your family didn't made poor choices or bad choices, and those bad choices fuck your life over. That happened in my case. So I don't remember exactly how it started, but this dude's glaring at me or, he's causing me problems. So what I basically do is, and I'm at this point now where I've been going through like 13 or 14 years of hell with these guys, with all these family problems. And so I basically have a pencil in my hand. I'm using a pen here, and I'm basically holding it like this. And I'm staring at him, but I'm communicating to him with my body language that I will stab him in the eyes, that I've had enough, that I want to be left alone. And after a while, he broke eye contact because he realized what I was going to do to him. And that even if he won the physical fight, if I took his eyeballs out, that was the end of it for his eyesight, and that he'd never get his eyeballs back. He knew exactly what I was going to do to him. He knew that this was going to go in his eye socket if he kept doing that to me. And after that day, he never bothered me again. But think about what I had to do to get these guys to leave me the fuck alone. Think about that. I had to literally use my body language to threaten this guy's life, to threaten him with blindness, to get him to leave me the fuck alone. I'm in a school environment. I'm supposed to be studying history. I'm not supposed to be going toe to toe with these other kids. But he knew that I was planning to kill him because I was fed up, and that at that point, I didn't care about consequences. I didn't care about prison or anything. I was livid. I was furious, and he was about to fucking feel it. And he realized the kind of menace and malice and rage that was coming off of me. And he understood in that moment, not worth it. But I shouldn't have to threaten a young man's life to make it not worth it for him to be a predatory prick. But that's exactly what I had to do. So if you ever wonder why I don't get along with, why I have a hard time with men, why I have a prejudice towards men, that's why. Because I had to take things that far. I had to basically threaten to kill a guy to get him to stop the bad behavior. I shouldn't have to do that shit. Oh, but you thought this was done. You thought it was over with. See, the sad thing is, even when you're done standing up to one group of males, oh, no. It just gets so much fucking better. Like, I rode on the bus because I was afraid of being caught alone with these fuckers. But when I left high school and I started attending college, I thought, great, you know, and it did get better in some ways, but that's just because if these males acted too far out of hand, they'd lose the ability to attend college classes. They wouldn't, you know, they could get into legal trouble, and they didn't want that. But the young boys are at their most emboldened when they don't have a fear of legal consequences, which is high school and middle school. They are at their most emboldened when they think, oh, I can punch a kid and I can literally assault a child or another kid, and I can get like a week, and then I'm back at it again. Hardy har har. Like, this is the kind of social environment we cultivated as a culture. We created a consequence-free society for young boys. You wonder why there's young men who act violent all the time and who do violent, stupid shit. It's not because young men are inherently violent. That's part of it. Some men are, but it's not why you see so much violence. The reason why you do is because we have fostered environments where we tolerate the violent behavior. If you give somebody a week, they they already have that kind of desire to hurt people anyways and be predatory, you're not stopping the bad behavior. They're just going to shift from one target to the next. That's who they are. And a lot of them have multiple targets. But yeah, I thought I was done with this in high school. I thought, oh, it couldn't possibly get any worse, could it? Oh, yes. It can get so much worse. So I didn't want to spend money on bus fare. So I would walk to school. At some point, you know, for a little while it was fine. I mean, I would always be very weary of male groups. Like, whenever 3 or 4 men, like, I walked by them, you know, I wouldn't admit to it, but I was sweating in the back of my head because I was like, I don't know if I can take them, you know, if they cause me trouble. But then I'm on my way home, and I'm living in an apartment complex. Now, we moved up from the trailer park. And there's these 2 guys that are stalking me in a vehicle. And this was one of the worst experiences I ever had because this contributed to a decline in my mental health. It made me afraid to walk on the streets. I had a very hard time motivating myself to get back out long after that incident. And this is all caused by men. So these 2 guys are stalking me and stalking me. They are following me up. They're eyeing me in a vehicle. They're following me up the street back to my home. And my belief is that the only thing that stopped them is that I had my hand in my pocket, and while I was looking straight, I was kind of tilting my head a little bit to let them know, I know you're following me. And I think the reason why they didn't jump out of the vehicle and do what they wanted to do is because they were worried I was going to assault them and that I was prepared to kill. Again, like, I thought I was done with this in high school, but I'm walking up the fucking street to get back to my home after my college class ends, and there are these 2 guys fucking stalking me in a vehicle. Unbelievable. And there's no police around, because of course there's not. Yeah, the thing, people like, you know, like, where are the police? Police are there to respond to problems. They're there to contain violence. They're not there to stop violence. Don't get it twisted. If somebody wants to do violence, they're going to do violence. All the police can do is contain the violence. That's it. They can stop the spread of the fire. They're not stopping the lighting of the fires. No way. So they pull that shit. And that leads to some mental health problems later. And I had this constant issue where even when I'm in my 20s, even when I'm in environments with people, with men who seem nice and relaxed, I am constantly questioning what these people would do if they were given a consequence free environment. If they were given an environment where they can do whatever the fuck they want to do, and all they get is like a week or two of detention, what are they going to do? Yeah. So there's other things that men and boys have done since then that have caused further problems. I got involved in a hate group. They poisoned my mind. They filled my body with poison, and I should have known better. But at the time, my mental health was just trashed, and I feel like it was a case of just not thinking logically or clearly. But after the dust settled, and I found myself among better people in a better group, and I had an objective look at this, I realized it's as simple as this. I wanted to believe that there was some kind of redeeming value in being with a male group or being with a group of males, and there just isn't. There are some men who are good or okay. That's without saying. But men as a class are really irredeemable. And I've had no shortage of problems with them. I've seen not only the damage they've caused to my family, but they pretty much every time I leave my home, even as a man right now, I'm almost 33 years old. I'm going to be 33 in about like a month and a half or something. As a man, I have had to accept the fact that as long as I live in a society with these violent fuckers, there may come a day when I'm going to have to, fight and die and whatever because of their shit. And you know why? Because when I had one of my mental health episodes, I'm going to the hospital and I meet this old guy, and guess who attacked him? Yep, a bunch of young guys. Go figure. It just makes it worse because it adds to the actual tension and stress that you have when you leave your home. When you leave your home, you know what you're going to have to deal with. You just know. Like every man who is like me, who has been in my shoes, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. If you are walking down the street and you see 3 young men coming your way or more, especially if they're dressed weird, you fucking know. You know what you have to mentally prepare yourself for. Because guess what? 3 women jumping you, it's not going to happen. Because women don't do that. It has nothing to do with whether they have, because some people will say, well, they don't have the capacity. They don't have the ability to do. Yeah, they do. They could buy a gun and shoot you in the face. They can gang up on you and do what guys do. They just don't do it. So when I'm walking by 3 women, I'm thinking, whew, no problem. I'll give you further. When I walk by a married couple, I still think, whew, probably not. You never know, but probably not. But when I walk by 3 guys, I'm always on pins and needles. And that's because of what they used to do back in the day. And especially if they're young teens, early 20s, these are some of the biggest offenders. Like up until the age of 35, they're committing tons of fucking crimes and doing lots of bullshit. And for me as a man, my biggest threat to my life, to my well-being, to my mental health in public, it's always been other men. When I have to step outside of my door to get groceries for my family, it's always a guy that I'm worried about because I've never seen anything different. And it's never going to be any different. Now, what's baffling to me, especially in this generation, is how people can somehow hate women more than men when women are the ones who create and sustain more peaceful environments. It is the men who create violent, fucked up environments. It is the men that I had to work against this fear. Like now I just accept it. I used to not want to go outside my home and walk down the street for fear of being jumped by assholes. Now I just take it more in stride than I used to. But I had to work myself into being like that. I had to get into a mental state of mind where I told myself, this is just the way that it is. This is how it's going to be for the rest of your life. So you either deal with it and cope with it and manage it, or you don't. But anybody who thinks for 1 second that women are somehow worse than men especially when it comes to the social environment, is just kidding themselves. It's delusional. I remember I heard a curfew once. I think it was in Australia. Somebody proposed a curfew. No, I think it was Australia. I think that it would probably just be better to lay a curfew down on young men, period. Especially young men in groups. I would discriminate and I wouldn't care because I know that they're the ones that are going to cause the problem. Now, if you have a man with man with his wife, I mean, in my case, I just let that go because in my experience, I've never had a married man attack me. Especially if he's with his wife and his kid, I actually feel safer around him because he has to behave himself. He knows there are consequences for his misbehavior when he's around his kid and his wife. So even if he's a bad guy, he's not going to act anywhere near as poorly as when there's three men together because young boys and young men who are bad always validate each other's bullshit behavior. Always. It's rare. Like that thing in Cobra Kai was like, you're taking it too far, Johnny. That doesn't happen in the real world. When those kids were poking me with a stick, one of them wasn't saying, "Hey man, maybe you're going too far." No, they were all sadists. They were enjoying every moment of what they were doing. What they were doing was torturing me, not only in a physical sense, but in a psychological sense. So they knew what the fuck they were doing. They knew it. And I'm not saying that I was any better as a kid. I also was a bully. It's just that I bullied people privately. They bullied people publicly. So there was a difference. And I regret it. I'm sorry that I ever did that. And I think why I did that is I felt helpless. And that's another thing that these men do to other men. Men make other men feel helpless. They emasculate other men. And when they do perform that emasculation, men have this desperate need to reclaim their manhood, to reclaim the idea that, no, I'm not a completely helpless person. I can defend myself. I can. Because what men really want at the end of the day is they want to feel safe. But when you live in a society with people who make you feel unsafe, and you have to find a way to deal with that, to accept that, because it's not going anywhere. But that's what happened. That's what happened to me. That's what happens to this day. Every time I step outside of my home, I'm not looking for Brittany, Tina, or Margaret. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about them because they're not out to harm me. They're not out to cause problems. I'm worried about Justin, Jake, and Lloyd coming to fuck my day up. I'm worried about those people. I'm worried about I got to get groceries for my family and then they jump me and leave me on the side of the road. That's what worries me. And so when it comes to, like, I think I was mentioning curfews, my curfews would just aim at young men in groups. I'd basically do everything in my power to split them up, keep them separated. I don't like it when young men are in groups because young men in groups are always trouble. 99 times out of 10, they're up to something. The only question is, what is it? And is it criminal or not? Or is it bordering on criminal or not? But yeah, I do have prejudice. I do have a certain healthy amount of hatred. But I hope after all of this, you understand why. And by the way, I'm not a man who even has the worst experiences. Talk to the other men who've been given swirlies, who've been beaten the shit out of. Because I was lucky enough to not actually be physically assaulted or to have my face pushed into a place where people defecate and urinate. Like, I actually got off easy in some ways. Talk to the other men who, and talk to Eminem, for instance. Talk to the guy who literally got beaten into a fucking coma. And then ask yourself, who's the worst problem? I promise you it's not the women and girls. It's the people beating other people with, like, I thought, was it like a lamplight or something? I don't remember what it was, but holy fuck. It was, now you know. But yeah, I do think that there is a place for misandric feelings, but it should be, the focus should be on channeling that in a way that helps women and girls, not seeking revenge. Because when you seek revenge, that's nothing but self-satisfaction. So those are my thoughts on the matter. What do you think? Is there a place for misandric feelings in the Gynarchy community? I'll leave you to it, and I got to eat. Take care, peace. Peace out.